Welcome in, Braves Today. BravesToday.com is where you can find us. It's all brought to you by Plains Coffee. Go to PlainsCoffee.com. Use promo code BRAVES. Get your 10% off. He is Lindsay Crosby. I'm Ben Taylor. And is it too early to talk about batting titles, MVPs, home run leaders, stolen base leaders? What else? Cy Young Award winners.
I don't think it is. No. To me, it's not too early because the games haven't started yet. So what else do we have to talk about right now? Like there's no actual baseball to talk about yet.
Right.
So we can do this now. We can talk about this now. We can talk about who might win Cy Young. I happen to have all the odds here because I just recorded an episode of Locked On Braves about this exact same thing. Yeah. So perfect timing.
Well, let's go ahead and start with Ronald Acuña. And him possibly he's been listed as being a possible contender for the batting title. However, it's just more along the lines. He's kind of fallen in that top 10. They don't think he can do it. However, I don't know, man. I mean, he didn't seem to miss it. Now, granted, the pitching down in the Venezuela League is not probably what he's going to see in the majors. No. But, I mean, since he was down there at one point batting 700, still that's pretty darn good before it's all said and done with. But he is a name to watch as far as being somebody that can put together both average, power, and stolen bases this year. And it could be a fun year to see Acuña, barring injury, just kind of run the gamut as far as the outfield is concerned.
Yeah, I mean, he is the favorite for MVP plus 500. But, like, in the batting title, he was second in batting average to Luis Arraez of the Marlins. It's not like he was 50 points off. Ronald put up a 337. Arraez put up a 354. And it's funny because Ronald's OPS was almost 200 points higher than Arraez because he doesn't hit a lot of homers, except for against Atlanta when he has two in the same game. He had 10 all year and two in the same game against Atlanta. But no, I think Ronald, I don't really know what has to change for Ronald to challenge for a batting title. I think it's going to end up being more of, you need somebody else to not have a stupid, crazy year. Like, Arraez won back-to-back years, but in 2022 in the AL with the Twins, he only batted 316. And so, I mean, Ronald would have won the batting title last year if not for the fact that Arraez's batting average jumped, 38 points? I can't do math in my head. Yeah, 38 points, something like that. And so, barring some sort of ridiculous thing like that, if everybody just repeats the same kind of year they had last year, then one bad series or one good series, one great series could swing that back to Ronald winning the batting title. I feel like rather easily. Ronald did lead all of baseball in hits. He had 217. Arraez had 203. It's just Ronald had so many more plate appearances. Ronald had 735, which led the National League, whereas Arraez had 617. Bum.
Yeah. I mean, and I know you have to meet the minimums in order to do this. I think that one of the things that is going to hold Ronald back as opposed to Arraez, and I know that Arraez can hit for a little bit of power from time to time, but there's a lot of times Ronald goes up there, he is swinging for the fences.
He's hunting,
Yeah, he is totally trying to ambush a pitcher and trying to take one 450 feet, and when he comes up empty, that's when you get a dribbler or it is a hard hit ball, but he did not, get under it at all, or he got under it too much and he ends up flying out because he just didn't quite square it up like he should have.
Popping up or something.
Exactly. And so that is, if there's anything that will hurt Acuña, it will be that where it's more, I call them mishits, not necessarily strikeouts and not necessarily ground ball outs. I think that there's just a lot of times where he has that mindset of those first couple of strikes, I'm going to go ahead and take my hacks before I try to square a ball up and maybe go the other direction with it.
Yeah, and you could kind of make the argument that it's better for Atlanta if Ronald doesn't win the batting title, because if he does win the batting title, it means that he's, I'm not going to say settling for a base hit, but he's not necessarily looking to go up and do maximum possible damage, right? He's just looking to, let me just put the ball in play, which is a sign of maturity. Like, that is a good thing, but you can, and I guess you have the power production. Now that I talk this out, let me go back up a little bit.
Okay.
I think it might actually in the long run end up being better for the team as a whole if Ronald does win the batting title, because that means you have some instances, like you said, where a miss hit, a less than ideal hit is a base hit versus an attempted homer that ends up being an out. So maybe it is better if Ronald wins it, because that means he's not trying to do too much. I do think that if Ronald had either hit 40 home runs really early and was chasing the stolen bases, or was nowhere near 40 home runs, I do think maybe you see the batting average look a little different last year. Mm-hmm. And so I hadn't really thought about this until you asked me, obviously. I really hadn't gone into too deep into the batting title part of it to think about it. But, maybe you're right. Maybe it is a little bit better for him to not necessarily try to do too much. When you look at the actual numbers last year, he hit less fly balls as a percentage than he has before, and he hit more line drives. And I feel like some of that was him not trying to strike out. He's like, okay, I got 2 strikes. I need to just settle for putting the ball in play versus hitting a homer. But I think your point is the first pitch, if he makes that calculus on the first pitch, he wins a batting title, but maybe finishes with 35 home runs or something. So this is a really kind of rambly show. I apologize, everybody.
No, but I just don't, with him, I just don't think that mindset's there, because you and I talked about it all the time. Yes, he is the leadoff hitter, but after you get through his third time in the lineup, he could be the cleanup hitter that particular inning, and he's going to bat like a cleanup hitter. Yeah. Ronald's not one that's going to, you got other leadoff hitters that are the skinnier guys, that are the ground ball guys, that are the line drive guys, that once, even when you get into the 6th, they're still batting like a leadoff hitter. They're still trying to put the ball in play, maybe go the other way, still trying to get on base. Yeah. Whereas Ronald, that first at bat, he gets his money's worth on that first swing, and then he usually gets a little bit better eye, because we see a lot of opening walks, which led to the stolen bases in the first inning. So he starts kind of easing up. But now when he comes up in the 6th, if there's anybody on, you can forget him taking any sort of base hit swing whatsoever. He's looking to put 2 runs on the board minimum, if not more, and he starts batting like a middle of the lineup power hitter at that point in time.
Yeah. I'm ripping this sucker into the chop house. I'm ripping the sucker to the Hank Aaron Terrace. Yeah. I'm dropping this in the fountains out in center field. Yeah. I mean, it's how much do you want him to change, I think, is kind of where I am. Like, I think we've kind of established as Braves fans that some of the ways with which Ronald does things, or that we handle Ronald, maybe isn't the platonic ideal, right? Like, he probably shouldn't have been your leadoff hitter up until maybe this season, right? Like, he was a guy who struck out 24% of the time. He walked less than 10% of the time last year. Like, he wasn't your ideal leadoff hitter. But we put him there because he's happy there. He wants to be there, and it sets the tone going into the game. And I think that you could make changes to his game, to how you treat him and stuff like that, to optimize him winning the batting title or optimize the number of runs and things like that. But how much do you want to change him, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of where I am with that. Is like 98% of the potential Ronald Acuña output is good enough, right? You don't have to take away some of the mystique by tweaking him and saying, hey, stop trying to hit home runs on the first pitch and just put the ball in play. Like, you don't have to do that. It would technically be worth probably 5 more runs over the course of a whole season. But is it worth it? I think that's the big thing there.
No, I like him. I like him swinging for the fences. I don't care what anybody says, and I'm totally okay with it. Speaking of which, Matt Olson, article on BravesToday.com right now, where it talks about, am I fast enough? First off, no,
that was a fun one. That was a fun one. That was really a fun article.
It is, and he makes a good pitch for him, legging out a triple and staring into the dugout.
3 triples, and he had 3 triples last year.
Letting them know, I'm the guy. I've got more wheels than you guys think. However, I think my text to you was, look, I don't care. All I need is the trot. I need 270, 45 home runs and a slow pace around the infield whenever he hits a home run, just trotting around the bases and going ahead and parking a couple of runs across the plate. I did think that was a fun article indeed, though. And I do think it's hilarious, the little self-deprecation that he's given himself as well.
Yeah. And it's just 3 triples from Matt Olson is not something you would expect to see if you go and you look at it. Like, Michael Harris III had 3 Michael Harris III. Thinking triples. Yeah. Michael Harris II had 3 triples last year. Like, Eddie Rosario had 3 triples. You know, and Ronald Acuña had 4. It's like, yeah, Matt Olson had 3. It's great. Something that I noticed, I was doing some research here. Something I noticed is, I don't, like, if you put him in the 4 hole all season, this dude could, like, we just talked about this with Ronald. This dude could be MVP if he's in the 4 hole all year, right? Like, he's not fast. He doesn't have to be fast. But in the 4 hole in 85 games, he batted .328 with 32 home runs. And that translates into just shy of like 65 homers for a full year. Because he plays 162. He has every year for like 3 years now. That translates to like 60-something homers. And you haven't seen, like, was it 50? It was 54 last year. Mm-hmm. I think it would have been an MVP year if not one for the slow start he had, and then because of betting the 2 hole, and then if not for Ronald doing Ronald Acuña Jr. things. Like, 54 homers gets a lot of attention, right?
Yeah, it's just tough to beat 70-40.
Exactly, 70-40. And so I honestly think if you bat him in the 4 hole all year and he performs like he did last year, like, I don't think we realize he cut his strikeout rate by 14% batting cleanup versus batting second.
I realize it because we had the ongoing argument as who ends up with the most strikeouts, Strider or Olson, before the year's over with.
Yeah, he had a 35% strikeout rate batting in the 2 hole, 92 strikeouts in 68 games, which honestly, you should have had one more game batting second before they moved you. Come on, man.
Yeah,
but he only had 69 strikeouts in 85 games. Really nice performance from cleanup. And he could win the MVP or the batting title, maybe. He batted .328 from the cleanup spot. Like, in most years, .328 can win you the batting title.
Yes.
So there's a couple candidates on this team that could do it. Michael Harris, I've talked about him before. He batted .293 for the whole season, but after getting over the injury, he batted over .300 down the stretch. Like, you probably have 3 or 4 different dudes who could contend for a batting title on this team, believe it or not, which is wild to me.
You definitely have 3 or 4 that could bat 300 plus throughout the year, and that is also wild in my opinion. And then you start factoring in that it could be even higher. And the thing is, when you get to that point, Lindsay, when you got that many guys that could possibly bat over 300, that protects other people in the lineup. So it just betters the rest of the lineup because they don't want to face the person that's batting 330, 340. They're going to try to pitch around them to get to the next person. So it should be interesting to see how that works out. And Olson,
I want to check one thing real quick. Marcell Ozuna started 081. We know it was awful. We've talked about it. He finished the year batting .274. And so I'm curious, like I'm pulling it up right now. Just from when he turned it around in Miami, when he took over the city of Miami, to the end of the year, did he bat 300? 297. He batted 297 with a 603 slugging and a 969 OPS. Like, he is having a good first month away from also being a 300 hitter and potentially contending for a batting title. And whoever thought we would say that about Marcell Ozuna?
Not after the start of last year. I mean, goodness gracious, I was ready to trade. I told you every time we did a pod, I said, we got to trade him. We got to get rid of him. We got to unload that money just because he was all. And the thing is that was when they were still platooning him in the outfield too. So he was a defensive liability. He was batting less than 100 from the plate. I mean, it's just one of those things that was like, golly, do we not have a minor leaguer that we can just shove in left field to do something? Maybe get hit by a pitch or something?
We actually didn't. No,
we
we don't. That's the problem. We don't.
Yeah, that was part of the issue as well. Hey, it's brought to you by Plains Coffee and plainscoffee.com. Use promo code BRAVES. Get your 10% off. Head on over and get all of that flavored coffee that they have, such as the pumpkin spice. I always talk about that. Chocolate hazelnut pecan pie. You got turtle as well as cinnamon hazelnut. Those beans are going ahead and straight to your doorstep. They don't roast the beans until they have your order. Every order roasted and shipped that exact same day. Just go to plainscoffee.com. Enter the promo code BRAVES. Get your 10% off. Lindsay, one thing that really stuck out in my mind, there's an article up right now on Braves Today. Chris Sale, am I remembering that correctly? Did he say since 2018 since he's been healthy?
Yeah, this is the healthiest he says he has been since the 2018 season.
That's insane. You're talking, half a decade plus. I mean, goodness gracious alive.
Yeah, he struggled in 2019. It was like an ERA of almost 4.5. He made 25 starts. He pitched like 100 and almost 150 innings. But like after that, it was just barely over 150 the next. He lost all of 2020 because of Tommy John.
Yep.
And then it was like barely 150 over the next 3 seasons. And I think the big thing, this stood out to me, and I've talked to a lot of prospects, a lot of college baseball players, and now a couple pros who have all kind of said things like this. When you're injured over the offseason, it really kind of gets in the way of your preparation for the next year. Mm-hmm. And so mentally, you feel like you're always behind all year. Because a lot of guys, if they want to add a new pitch or they want to fix a mechanical thing that they noticed, that's an off-season thing. And then a lot of guys do a lot of physical work to physically prepare for the season, for going out and pitching 200 innings, for taking 600 at-bats or whatever during the offseason, so that when the season comes in, you feel comfortable that your body can withstand it and that you are mentally, emotionally, physically, mechanically prepared for the season. And so because of that, because he says, it's the first time I've been healthy since 2018, it makes me feel like, okay, now you're in a scenario where he legitimately could be. I'm not going to say he's going to be Chicago White Sox Chris Sale. Like that's right. That's a dude that finished inside the top 5 of Cy Young voting like 5 or 6 straight years. But can he be closer to that than what he showed in Boston? Some of those final years where he put up a 4.5 ERA or he only pitched 40 innings. The mental side of baseball, we can't really measure it. We don't talk about it enough, but it's huge. And I really feel like feeling healthy, feeling comfortable is going to translate into on-the-field success during the season and in October for Chris Sale.
You know what? You made a good point there where you said feeling healthy and feeling comfortable. And the reason I say that is because, number one, he said all the right things thus far, but the interviews, the body language, the video that's been released that since pitchers and catchers reported and since the team's starting to arrive, he's saying and doing all the right. It starts coming across as one of those guys the AAA was able to find that has not really been happy. And it sounds like since 2018, and he's found new life with an organization that is set up to succeed on yet another season. And it's kind of given them a rejuvenation of, this is why I love baseball. This is why I play the game. And it seems like all of that is around him at this point.
Yeah. And in offseason interviews, he never said that he wasn't happy in Boston, which, I get that. Shout out Anthony Rendon for being honest, just telling us he doesn't like baseball. But I think you can tell when you listen to Chris Sale talk about the offseason, talk about the trade and everything, that he felt guilty that he wasn't healthy and that he wasn't able to be the Chris Sale they thought he was going to be. And so he may not have been happy while he was in Boston. It's not because of anything Boston did. It's because the circumstances around him didn't allow him to be healthy because he knew he could do more than he was showing. And I do think we talk so much on the show about Michael Harris wants to bat ninth. Let him bat ninth. Ronald Acuña wants to lead off. That's where he's comfortable. Let him do it. Chris Sale has said in interviews on camera this offseason that, like, coming over to Atlanta, he can suck and nobody's going to get mad. Like, he's not. Right. He was named the opening day starter for 2024 in Boston in October. Like, he was the alpha dog. And when he couldn't perform, he took the weight of the responsibility of letting the team down. And here in Atlanta, you don't need him to carry the entire rotation all season. And so I think that's a big thing that we don't talk enough about that. And then also, Max Fried apparently has been attached to his hip all spring, and I love that because, like, yes, Spencer Strider's the favorite for Cy Young, plus 550, best odds. Max Fried's top 5 in odds, and he's coming off of a 2022 where he was the runner-up to a generational year from Sandy down in Miami. And so, like, in a contract year, Max Fried being attached to veteran Chris Sale and just learning everything he can, Max Fried could be a monster this year. And as much as it's going to drive up his price in free agency and possibly mean he's not able to make it back to Atlanta, If Max Fried has a Cy Young caliber season in 2024, that is nothing but a good thing for the Atlanta Braves and would put him in great position to dominate in October when we get there. And so, like, as much as I hate the idea of his price getting even more expensive, I love what it could mean for the Braves in 24 on the field.
And speaking of the battery, we can't get to Drake Baldwin today. We're going to have to wait and get to that another time.
Sorry, buddy. We're trying, I promise.
I know. Go to bravestoday.com. Catch all the written work as well. He's Lindsay Crosby. I'm Ben Taylor. It's all been brought to you by Plains Coffee. Go to plainscoffee.com. Promo code BRAVES. Get your 10% off. Lindsay, as always, I greatly appreciate it, sir.
Thanks, buddy.